genre.
Hello and welcome back to the Doctor's Companion presents Doctor Who, The Long Way Round, the weekly podcast where we review and discuss every episode of Doctor Who, one doctor at a time. I'm Nick Jimenez.
I'm Scott Corelli.
And I'm Cass Fredrickson.
Today on the show, we'll be discussing Mawdryn Undead, the fifth Doctor's 10th story.
Yeah. Mawdryn Undead. Written by Peter Grimwade, directed by Peter Moffat. It aired in 4 parts between February 1st, 1983 and February 9th, 1983. This is during the era when the show aired twice a week.
Wow, like SNL during that one election season.
Oh, yeah. So this is, they had like the weird primetime thing.
The Thursday night update or something.
Yeah. Yeah. And the whole show was worse as a result because
bad idea.
Yeah, bad idea. That's too much content. That's too much stuff. So this is part 1 of the Black Guardian trilogy. This is, however, not the introduction of the Black Guardian. Nick, you will meet him at the beginning of his first appearance in the Key to Time miniseries or
like,
where
like 8 years from now.
I don't know if it's that long. It's not quite that long away. It's a while. Okay. But it is during the 4th Doctor's era, and it ends with him vowing revenge against the Doctor, and now you are seeing said revenge.
Okay. It's like Jafar's revenge.
Yes. This is the revenge of Jafar of the Black Guardian. So this is also, notably, season 20, the 20th anniversary of the show. And so John Nathan Turner is wanting, lots of, callbacks to other stuff, things that have happened in the past. And so that's why we've got, the Black Guardian trilogy, though it does feel like cheating, doesn't it? Like, because the next 2 episodes don't really have, or the next 2 stories don't really have like callbacks as much, but the Black Guardians is there. So they're like, yeah, that's enough. Which is just like, okay, I guess. But yeah, this is all culminating. Season 20 is culminating with the 20th anniversary special, The 5 Doctors. So that's where this is all driving toward. But for the next 3 stories, we're going to be talking about the Black Guardian and Turlough, our new companion. So Turlough is a concept. The concept of Turlough is something that John Nathan Turner had wanted from Adric, but it never really materialized because it just wasn't working out with Adric, and so they wanted him to be like a quote unquote evil companion, like a guy, like somebody that you couldn't trust, a companion that was untrustworthy.
Well, you know what? They sure did fail with Adric.
Yeah, they did. They really did. They really did.
We all did.
Yeah, the only person he proved to be untrustworthy against were the dinosaurs.
One of the
he stabbed them
Adric.
right in the fucking back.
Yeah, to Adric.
So when they ditched Adric, John Nathan Turner was like, all right, let's circle back. Let's go back to the original concept for Adric and try again. And at the same time, script editor Eric Sayward wanted a actual, like, not just a untrustworthy companion, but an evil companion. That was something that he was really interested in, the idea of like a villainous companion.
Because he hates the show.
Right, because he hates the show, and he was like, yeah, wouldn't it be neat if like there was a companion that just murdered everyone in the TARDIS and the show ended forever and I could get another job? That would be amazing. Eric
He's like the doctor.
sucks.
He's like Dr. Smith from Lost in Space. Just always kind of mucking up the pipes.
Yeah. Well, and you know, and that's more or less kind of what John Nathan Turner, I think, wanted Turlough to be. Is like Mr. Smith, you know?
That's a good point.
Yeah, so so they come up with this idea of like, okay, let's explore this, and you know, he wanted the option, however, to be like, if we're doing an evil companion, that kind of has an endpoint, because you have to like tie that up, and he has to like, you know, get his just desserts or whatever, get justice, and so his advice was like, let's merge the two ideas. And let's have him not be fully evil, but maybe be working for someone who is evil, and he's manipulated by this guy. And so that is what brought the Black Guardian back into the fray. And so it was decided that Turlough would be introduced as a guy who was being manipulated by the Black Guardian, so that at the end of the Black Guardian trilogy, they would basically have an option for like, okay, if it doesn't work out, if like Turlough's not that interesting, we can jettison him after 3 stories. Or if we do like him, then we can set up a redemption arc for him for the remainder of his run on the show. And they're like, yeah, it's like a win-win. So that's what they decided to do. And so they started figuring out what this new trilogy was going to be. At one point, it was going to start with a story that was written by Pat Mills and John Wagner, who were the like the regular writers on the Doctor Who weekly comic strip. And the story was called The Song of the Space Whale. Space whales, which would
That's cool.
Yeah, definitely something that would come back later
Reoccurring,
on.
motif of the show.
Definitely, but this didn't work out for several reasons. Basically, like, it was going to be this partnership. However, John Wagner dropped out of the project near the beginning, where he just decided he didn't want to do it, or I don't know. Not really sure why, but Pat Mills and Eric Sayward fucking hated each other. And so Pat Mills, like, I don't know if Pat Mills quit or Eric Sayward fired him, but either way, this shit was not getting written. So that put the kibosh on that. Then, while they were sort of, figuring out this trilogy, at one point they thought, well, maybe like, Enlightenment is sort of the one that's looking the best right now. So maybe we can figure out a way to introduce Turlough in that story, and start with that one, instead of ending with it. And so that was explored for a while. But Sayward reached out to Peter Grimwade, the director of Time Flight, and was like, I know you're also a writer. Would you want to would you want to write something for the show? And he was like, yeah, I've actually been thinking about like Doctor Whoizing the legend of the Flying Dutchman. This is a mariner's legend, about a ghost ship and the sailors aboard who are like kind of like doomed to be on the seas forever. And and so it was just like the idea of a spaceship that was just sort of traveling ceaselessly through the galaxy, carrying a crew of immortals, and wanting to introduce that into things. But also, at the same time, Grimwade was also interested in writing a story, a Doctor Who story about a series of seemingly unrelated yet very related events happening in the same location in different time periods, because he was like, this is a time travel show and I feel like we hardly ever take advantage of that. And so it was decided to combine these two ideas and create this story called Mawdryn Undead. Which Mawdryn comes from the Welsh word mar, which means dead, and din, which means man. So it's dead man undead. That is the name of this. That's the name of the story. It was also decided that, with the two time periods, they have this guy working for the show. I don't know. I think Cass, I think you have brought him up a few times, but I don't know if we've ever talked about him at length. But at this point in the show, now 20 years into the show, it was deemed necessary that they have a continuity expert.
No, screw this guy.
Yeah, and that man's name is Ian Levine. And his suggestion for the time periods, because originally they were like, well, let's go like wildly different time periods. Let's like make them a century apart. And John Nathan Turner was like, that sounds expensive. How about instead of a century apart, we do like 5 years? 5-6 years, something like that. And he was like, okay. And then Ian Levine was like, well, if you're going to do it just a few years back, maybe bring back an old companion. Like that would be an interesting role for them to fill, to be in both time periods. And we're revisiting an old companion. And so that was when it was decided, without consulting anyone else, that companion would be none other, Nick, you called it last week, than Ian Chesterton.
Yes.
So they're like, yeah, we're going to write Ian into this story, and he's going to be in both time periods, and it'll be great. We'll have this school where he's working. It'll be Coal Hill, and Turlough will be a student there, and it'll all tie back, and it's great. What a perfect 20th anniversary kind of story. So they wrote the whole thing, and then decided that they should we should probably reach out to the actor
Oh
to
my
see
God.
if he's available. So they reach out to William Russell, and he was like, no, I'm in a play right now, I can't be in the show. And they were like, okay. So then they're like, all right, well, we wrote a man, so that narrows things down. And he's not wearing a kilt, so that really narrows things down. So they're like, okay, let's go to Harry Sullivan. Let's try him. Maybe he's available. And they basically went to him, and he instantly turned them down. He was like, no interest, absolutely zero interest in ever coming back. Thanks, bye. So then they're like, okay, well, there's only like one other guy, so I guess we'll go with Brigadier. And this caused actually much to I love when Ian Levine is chagrined. I love when he's upset. It makes me happy because he's a little fucking piece of shit. But this caused a catastrophe of continuity with this story because, technically speaking, the Third Doctor era does not take place in the years that it was released. It technically takes place a few years in the future. I forget exactly what the year range is, but it's a few years in the future. And technically, in 1977, Brigadier was still running unit, because that was during the time period that the Third Doctor stories take place. So Ian Levine warned John Nathan Turner of this issue with having the Brigadier, and John Nathan Turner was like, "Oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, we're gonna do it anyway. I don't give a shit." And so, so they just did it anyway, and it is one of the sort of like biggest holes in Doctor Who continuity. It's like one of the ones that like a lot of people point to as a huge mistake in the continuity. However, I think most of that comes from Ian Levine loudly proclaiming it every chance that he can get about how much he warned them not to do it, and they did it anyway, and damn them, I'm a real fan, and he sucks. He's really annoying. Anyway, yeah, I mean, my feeling is like, I don't know, I don't get much future vibes from those John Pertwee stories. So I kind of just ignored that. Like when they brought that up, I'm like, I don't know, whatever. I don't care. And if nothing else, like you can just be like, yeah, he went to that alternate universe, Inferno. When he came back, it was back in the early 70s. I don't know. Something changed. Who gives a shit? It doesn't matter.
It's like how no one ever points out in the books in Harry Potter that it's set in the late 80s, early 90s.
Right. Totally. So yeah, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't break anything, in my opinion. But yeah, that's how we got where we ended up with all of this stuff.
I have a question for both of you. Just kind of like a fun little what if game. So like taking the dumb gender stuff out of it, I'm like, well, it has to be one of the boy companions.
Yeah.
Who do you think could have slid into this Ian Chesterton slot as like a teacher at Coal Hill that gets roped into this temporal adventure with the Fifth Doctor?
I mean, Barbara would have been the coolest choice, I think. I don't know what she was doing at this time, though. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Because you're pretty limited with Second Doctor companions because I don't think any of them are modern day other than like Ben and Polly at the very beginning. Like I don't think any of them are like Polly. Modern companions. They're all from like different weird time periods.
Right.
And then I guess you could bring back Liz Shaw. She's kind of got like strict like
teacher, like headmistress vibes.
Yeah, headmistress vibes. Yeah.
And she gets name checked in this.
She does. Yeah, I could totally see her being, like the headmistress at a school. But that's about it. I feel like it's either Barbara or Liz at this point.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's a cool what if.
Yeah.
So I wrote here in my notes. Oh, please. I can say my thing. No, please.
Okay. So they, so then the next step was to cast Turlough. And this ended up being very difficult because everyone came in auditioning for the new companion and was just kind of doing what they felt was like, what a companion sounded like, I guess. So they weren't like bringing any like,
little shit energy.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And so, you're frustrated. Nathan Turner just sort of like reached out to, some other people at BBC and was like, hey, can you think of anyone? Like, this is the character. Like, who do you know that does that? And a BBC production manager named Gary Downey recommended Mark Strickson, who had like a small arc on the medical drama Angels at the time. She was like a guest arc. And this is what's interesting about Mark Strickson and why he's sort of perfect casting for this role. So unbeknownst to Strickson and J&T, the Angels production team were planning on offering Strickson a series regular role on Angels, and had already begun writing him into future scripts as a series regular without consulting Strickson. Now, if I'm an actor, I feel like, wow, that's amazing. Like, they want me to come back. That's like so cool. Mark Strickson, however, like I'm going to have a regular job. Mark Strickson, however, felt that was presumptuous on their part and was offended that they had started writing his character into the show without consulting him and quit and joined Doctor Who instead.
What is happening at the BBC at this time? Because like that's 2 shows in a row where they're just like, yeah, it'll be fine. And then the actor's like, no. Like...
Yeah. I know.
What?
I know. So crazy.
Wow.
So he joined, he was blonde at the time. And they were afraid that his blonde hair was going to be too confusing and too close to Peter Davison. So the first thought was like, he's an evil little shit. Let's shave his head. And so they were gonna like shave his head, and he was gonna be like a skinhead. And he was like, okay, like I'll do that, no problem. But I would like to be paid a premium for that. For when I eventually leave the show, because I will be losing work until my hair grows back. And
Right.
John Nathan Turner was like, fuck you. No, never mind. We're dying. You're going to be ginger instead. And then that was that. So they dyed his hair red instead of shaving it.
Way better choice.
Yeah, it is a way better choice. The shaving the head, that's weird. The idea of a skinhead in the TARDIS is just so bizarre to me. But yeah, so there we go. And then they filmed it without a hitch, and this is the story we got. Part 1 of the Black Guardian trilogy, Mawdryn Undead. Nick, what were your thoughts on the first time watching this story?
Yeah, I wrote in my notes at one point, I think it was episode 4, 2 Brigs, 1 cult.
Yeah.
I love the timey-wimey stuff.
Uh-huh.
It was the most like new Who that a classic Who episode has felt this season.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just a fun caper and plot. I was really relieved that I wasn't supposed to know who the Black Guardian was already when he first made an appearance. I was like, oh wait, crap, I don't remember this guy.
Oh yeah.
But it was a fun adventure. I always like seeing 5 again, and it's the Flying Dutchman comparison kind of blew my mind. I mean, like Tegan brings up the Queen Mary at one point, but it totally clicks hearing you describe it, like the cult, the zombies being the crew of the Flying Dutchman. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, Cass, your revisit of this, how'd you like it?
I feel like this played better than I remembered it. Granted, I didn't really remember much of it. I just remembered that the Brigadier was in it. But I had a lot of fun with this. I think I was really impressed with like the pacing of this.
Yes.
Which is not something that I would say about most classic Who. Much better writer than he is a director.
Yes.
Peter Greenway.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I liked how like pretty much everything that he set up like gets paid off. And I enjoyed the, like, it feels like there's not a lot of action in this one. Like, most of it is just like the Doctor and the Brigadier, like there's like a majority of an episode where they're just vibing in the Brigadier's living room having tea and talking. But like that, it works.
Yeah.
It works for some reason. So and I liked the Flying Dutchman like space concept a lot. Yeah.
I think there's a book that I own and I read a couple years ago. I think I brought it up on the show. It's called Shada.
Yeah.
And that also takes place at a college, at like a sort of academic setting like this. I think it's a university, whereas this is a boys' school. But like, I never think of that setting as like a fruitful one for Doctor Who, but it kind of it is. Something about that academia establishment is just rife for like subterfuge and sabotage and duplicity.
Yeah, remember when the 12th Doctor was a college professor for a while?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
The Bill era.
Yeah, the Bill era. So Mawdryn Undead, I think this is like the 3rd time I've probably watched this, I think. I think it is one of my favorite 5th Doctor stories. And it has a lot to do with the pacing thing that you were talking about, Cass, but also like just the good vibes, and the timey-wimey stuff, the 2 timeline things. But also like the interesting use of like regeneration and how that could be used to trick the companions if they're aware of regeneration and how it works. You know, having a villain use that to his advantage, I think was really interesting. Like a really interesting like choice, I guess, and an interesting wrinkle in this. And like the fact that like the, for lack of a better term, the Flying Dutchman guys want him to give each of them one of his regenerations is also like an interesting plot, because typically you just see the Master doing that, wanting that. And so the fact that like these guys are like, hey, we all just want one. Like no big deal. We're not greedy. Is also interesting. I don't know. Like I just think this has so much stuff in it that is it's just a lot of fun. It's not like it's no Caves of Androzani, it's no Enlightenment, but it's just like a really like solid, big ideas well executed Fifth Doctor story. And I just really like it a lot. I think it's great. So,
and like we were talking about Time Lord lore last week, and like this one doesn't have as much, but like there is like the Time Lords are still like the root of the problem, kind of, and like the like you were talking about the companion thing. Like imagine like Clara, like you could sub Clara into this story and she'd be like, oh, I know what regeneration is. Like, okay, well, if you're the new Doctor, then I'll help you, or like
right.
Donna, like
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting how both this story and Brain of Morbius, they're about the Time Lord's legacy and like their effects even in the wake of their absence, like the repercussions that their society had on the galaxy that we're still dealing with even though they're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Time Lords aren't gone in Classic Who. They're very much like there.
So they're just chilling on Gallifrey right now.
Yeah.
Undisturbed. Okay.
But there's still like they're very like obviously they're very vindictive in this story, because like they like curse these people who into like to basically like deteriorate forever. And like there's no end to that. Like that's evil.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, it paints a negative picture of them, which Brain of Morbius did in kind of a stealth way, just in what was unsaid about them. And yeah, it's cool that even back then the show was not interested in portraying them in like a very, utopian light.
Yeah.
Would you that made me think though about like Krypton and stuff, and like how it's actually kind of rare that the character's like planet of origin is depicted as like really cool and like a great place to be. It's almost kind of about them like chasing their like running from their legacy, or like where they came from.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Because I think you get to a point where people think like, if your society goes too far into the direction of progress, it becomes like unemotional and purely logical. And then that gets you into trouble, because then with pure logic, you like become like immune to like surprise things. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, well, no, that doesn't sound correct, because that would be crazy. Or people can hide behind logic and be like, no, that is not the logical course of action. And it's like, I promise you it is, but it's just, I don't know. It is interesting because that does become a thing. That's definitely like, Time Lords and Krypton, like you said. And I feel like there's some other examples of that as well. Vulcans,
yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting.
So part one, we're introduced to Turlough. I love how much of a little scamp Turlough is. So he and his friend, who he calls Hippo, which is like, that sucks. But he and this boy that he goes to school with, they're checking out this classic car, and then Turlough's like, hey, what if we steal it? So they steal the car.
Turlough, get out of the car, Turlough, please.
I know. He's
love Hippo.
What's the really annoying schoolboy from Lord of the Flies?
Piggy.
Yeah, he's got
Big...
What an
Oh my god!
Why does England hate schoolboys?
Yeah, no, but yeah, like he would be chased down with spears if they were on in a Lord of the Flies situation.
Yeah.
So Turlough and this poor kid steal a car. Turlough is speeding down the wrong side of the road and is shocked when he ends up in a car accident because of it. And while he's unconscious, he's contacted by this entity called the Black Guardian. I am obsessed with his outfit. I love his stupid little bird hat. And he basically makes a deal with Turlough and is like, I will get you off the planet Earth, because he's apparently an alien, which I don't think was very clear, but like Turlough's not from Earth. And he's like, I will let you go home if you kill the doctor for me. And Turlough's like, great, yes, okay, cool. How hard is murder? So then the doctor, Tegan, and Nyssa are in the TARDIS. Tegan is still kind of processing her trauma after Snake Dance, where she was like possessed by the Mara. She's been like not having a great time. The doctor is not being a very good friend. He tries to like Tegan wants to go back to Earth just to like decompress. And the doctor's like, okay, fine. But he is pulled. The TARDIS is like pulled into like a crash course or something. I'm not quite sure the science, the technobabble of it, but like
it's caught in a warp ellipse.
Okay. That doesn't mean anything.
No. A temporal space-based hazard that could capture and disrupt the flight of a spacecraft and time travel vessels. Yeah, it's just bullshit.
I should use that more often, though. It's really handy.
Yeah.
Right? So the TARDIS and this giant spaceship are basically on a collision course. So the doctor materializes the TARDIS onto the ship. The ship looks like a luxury hotel, basically, and it's empty. And they poke around a little bit, and the doctor is like, "Oh, I can't dematerial, I can't move the TARDIS off the ship because there's a transmat beam, more technobabble that's causing the TARDIS from being able to move." So Turlough, back on Earth, is instructed to go to this transmat machine.
Yeah.
He gets beamed up onto the ship. He meets the doctor. The doctor is just like, "You're not supposed to be here." They go back to Earth. Tegan and Nyssa stay in the TARDIS. The doctor's trying to fix the thing. And then Turlough picks up a big heckin' rock and is gonna bash the doctor on the head with it. And that is our cliffhanger.
Yeah.
What a way for the doctor to die.
Right?
Also, it wouldn't work.
Right?
Bludgeoned to the head with a rock.
You would just regenerate. Like, that wouldn't work.
The hell, man? Cass, on our Brain of Morbius episode, we had a brief conversation towards the end where we were trying to decide whether or not Turlough had more Edmund in Lion the Witch and the Wardrobe energy or Eustace.
Yeah.
And I think having now met him and watched the episode, I do the Edmund vibes are strong.
That's fair. Yeah.
But the Black Guardian is the White Witch.
Yeah.
Instead of Turkish delight, it's the promise of leaving this hellhole called Earth. But you're right, though, that the detail of him not being from Earth took me a while, because there's a point where he finally says, like, "I want to go home. Let me go home." And I was like, I think he means another planet. Because up until that point, when he was like, "I don't want to be here anymore. Take me out of this world. I don't want to live here anymore," I thought he meant that he would, and with the car stuff, I thought that he was like trying to like kill himself.
Oh no.
was like manic.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, okay, no, he's just an alien.
Yeah.
I guess knowing that this was supposed to be Ian in the story, there's like the parallel of like Susan being like weird and like not from her time and like knowing things and just like
weirdo.
Yeah.
That's true.
But I don't think they like cleaned it up or made it as like clear that like Turlough is not Turlough isn't from Earth.
So there's a horrible part in this episode where I think it's like he's given a last name and it started with an I, but Hippo is like trying to get the attention of the Brigadier, and he's like, "Come on, we have to have." And he's like, "Oh, if you exercise more, your body wouldn't be quite as disgusting."
I know.
Disgusting to look at.
Which is so weird because he's just like a normal looking guy.
It's just a weird part of British children's story. We see it in Roald Dahl. We see it in J.K. Rowling. It's just like a weird.
Yeah. Abatson is his last
Abatson.
name. Abatson. Yeah.
Turlough
but
really
when you click on his
the
name on the TARDIS wiki, he has no first name. His first name is Hippo because you never learn his first name. So
That sucks.
his TARDIS wiki page is
Forever.
Hippo Abatson.
Oh no.
He gets thrown under the bus by Turlough.
He really does.
He does. Yeah. And then he lies to his face. I'm like, what do you care if you're in trouble? You don't even want to be here.
Hippo clearly cares.
Right?
Yeah, this is why I don't like Turlough. I think he's a little shit.
He is. This is why I like Turlough.
So, I'll probably forget by the time we get to this again. So, like, is this sort of like a proto Sixth Doctor? Like, does he get like Edmund and Eustace in the Narnia books? Does Turlough get a redemption arc of sorts? No, you know what? Don't spoil it. I don't want to know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he continues as a companion beyond this trilogy. So, like,
Yeah.
Okay. So he's not just constantly reporting back to the
Right,
Black Guardian for like years.
No, no.
Yeah, no. He basically continues on until like the penultimate story
Yes,
of the Fifth
yeah.
Doctor. Yeah.
He's like Smurfette,
Yeah, that's true. He's
Smurf.
exactly like Smurfette.
He was brought in as a double agent, but then the power of love and friendship
Yeah.
turned him good.
And all the other companions want to fuck him.
Wow.
I only said that to make Cass laugh.
That's so cursed. Oh my god. No.
Not to skip to the end, but like, when it's like, welcome to the team, buddy, like that's a weird TARDIS team.
Yeah. Very weird. It doesn't last very long.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't last very long.
But anyway, not to get ahead of ourselves.
I speaking of like our senior TARDIS companions though, like I love Nissa's outfit in this so much.
Yes.
The denim dress is so freaking cute. Like Tegan's little romper is cute too, but like she's worn that before. I don't know. I like
Right.
Nissa.
I mean, I like both of their like post I'm wearing a costume outfits.
Yes. Yeah.
This that they both get this season. I think they're both like vast improvements.
Mm-hmm.
But like especially Nissa now that she's not wearing that like weird like velvet jumpsuit that she was wearing.
I like the velvet jumpsuit with the little tutu skirt, but she's only in that for like her introductory story, and then that's it.
Yeah.
So,
but this outfit's great. I love
Yeah.
like more like casual Nissa. I think she's
Mhm.
great.
Cass, I liked you brought up how Five was not being a very good friend to Tegan at the start of this.
mhm.
And there's another moment in this episode where he's like trying to get the thing that the device to work while Turlough's like with the rock, and he's like there's a part where Five falls back on the grass and he's like, it didn't work. Let's find out why. And it was so 13 of like, I have no idea what I'm doing. All right, well, I'm gonna fix it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, she's full of sunshine. They're both bright and full of sunshine. But also, both 5 and 13 secretly jerks.
Yep. Yep.
When
like
you-
they
when-
both
yeah.
seem from the outside, if you don't know them very well, they both seem like very like open and welcoming and
charming
whatever.
and yeah.
Yeah, but you get to know them and you're like, oh, you are like really closed off.
Both blonde. That's
Yeah,
weird.
and both blonde. Yeah, they're
Wow.
that's the interesting thing. Because it's like, you have like 12. A lot of people are making comparisons to the Third Doctor, which I don't really see. I see way more of like Hartnell if he could play guitar. But
Tartnell, if you will.
yeah,
Guitar-
guitar.
wow.
Yes, guitar.
done.
Yeah. Perfect.
right,
And 11
goodbye.
obviously has a lot of Troughton, obviously.
Yes.
He's just like a more romantic version of Troughton. But as much as like I remember at the time, like 10 was mostly compared to 5 because he was like the most young Doctor since 5,
Mhm.
and
Kinda dashing.
they both wear the sneakers, right?
Yeah.
But you're dead on, Nick. I feel like people, I think, look back on because the era is so controversial. I think they look at her as more the 6th Doctor of the new Who era.
In terms
But
of legacy, yeah.
Yeah, but I think you're dead on. She has too many goddamn people in the TARDIS, and she's blonde and really closed off. Like that is, yeah, totally. I think you're dead on. She's the 5th Doctor of the new Who era. I think way more so than 10. 10 is like the 4th Doctor of the new Who era because he's like the most popular, and he was like I don't know. Yeah.
And also even their aesthetic, it's very like you said, very cream and soft and
Mhm.
bright and colorful, but then it's sort of like masking,
Mhm.
like isolate, like actually don't get close to me, or like he's surprisingly cold in moments of this when the companions are like in real peril, and he kind of almost seems to like be an afterthought for him.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Part 2.
Part 2.
Okay. Yeah. So part 2.
The rock approaches.
The rock. Yeah, the Doctor's working on trying to fix the transmat beam. The machine malfunctions. They're both knocked back, so that there goes that murder attempt. And
This was okay. Credit where credit's due to like whoever like worked this out. It's actually done in a way that I was like, oh, that looked pretty natural, actually. Like the way that
Falling
he
back
fell
and-
backwards, and then the rock like rolled down a hill and
Yeah.
away,
yeah.
so that it was like, it's like
Yeah.
it never happened. Like it was actually really well done. I thought, yeah, surprisingly,
Like it didn't feel forced or
Yeah.
yeah, right.
I was worried that Turlough was just going to drop it on his head and like kill himself.
That would be hilarious.
So the TARDIS does materialize briefly, and then it disappears again. The Doctor is understandably upset at this. He goes to the school and meets the Brigadier, who I forgot to mention in the first episode, but he's totally introduced in the first episode as a teacher.
It's
at the
his
school.
car.
Yeah. And the Brigadier doesn't remember him.
Mhm.
And so they basically like the doctor name drops Unit. The Brigadier is like, you're not supposed to know about Unit. Come with me. Like, we're going to talk in private. And through their just the conversation, like the Doctor mentions Joe and Liz and Sarah. Does he mention Sarah
Yeah.
Jane?
I think
Sarah
Sarah
Jane?
Jane is the third one. Yeah.
And also Yeti.
yes.
Yeah, the Yeti.
Like
and-
the Yeti is the thing that like almost triggers the whole thing. 'Cause
Yes.
he's like, oh, sounds reminds me of the Yeti, and he's like, Yeti, and then he sits down, and then he starts just like shooting other names at him, and that's when like the wartime flashbacks come back.
I liked all of the clips that they showed with like
Mm-hmm.
younger Brigadier, because like the Yeti is the first time that the Brigadier is in Doctor Who. Like he meets Troughton first.
Right.
And
Which you have not gotten to, Nick. So
right.
Right. Yeah.
yeah, not yet.
And I like all the little clips, and like now that you mentioned that's like this is the 20th season, like yeah, of course that would make sense that they would do
Right.
this.
And the first Doctor, I love the first Doctor clip being a clip of a clip on a TV.
Well, it's from the
yeah,
Three
I know
Doctors.
it's from the three. I know it's from the Three Doctors. It's just really funny, and especially for Nick, where that is totally out of context.
Yes,
because he hasn't seen the Three Doctors yet.
Yeah.
Okay. I just imagine you're like, why is this one on a TV?
I guess that's, and then I remember that one too.
Is the Brigadier is definitely the companion that's interacted with the most iterations of the Doctor, right? Outside of Clara, but Clara's like super special.
Right, and doesn't count because like I don't even know how many of those are really like canon at this point.
Right, yeah.
Forgot about that. Totally forgot about that.
Yeah,
she's super special 50th anniversary girl.
Yeah,
yeah, that's her official name.
Yes.
Before she becomes like a real companion
actual
for
person.
The 12th Doctor. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone. I don't think there's anyone else. But it's weird because I don't know how often if ever, that he's traveled in the TARDIS.
Right. Yeah. No.
Wow.
Is this the first time?
It might be.
What? That's wild.
That kind of explains because, like, later on after he gets his memories back, he has this line that kind of fits with what I've seen so far of his adventures with 3. Is like, I never understood that TARDIS. That thing just made my brain hurt. Like, I don't even really know how that. And Doctor's like, I cannot believe you've been rolling with me this long and you barely understand time travel.
I know. It's like, man, to be fair, you were kind of on lockdown the whole time you were hanging out with this guy. I don't know.
It's like sometimes you meet this person who's very important to you and a very like important
specific
person
way.
Yeah. That it's like, a version of me that no one else knows for some reason.
Yeah.
Okay, so the rest of the episode, Tegan and Nyssa are in the TARDIS. They materialize what looks to be on the school grounds.
Oh, but one important thing, going back to that scene where he's remembering everybody, the Doctor mentions Tegan. And he was like, "Oh, Tegan, yeah." And he's like, "No, that's after your time. You never met her." And he was like, "No, she's like Australian, right?"
Yeah,
and has the thing. And he's like, "What?" And then we cut to them.
Yes,
and then that's the setup.
That
for
was
this.
It goes back to pacing of like, I was like, "Whoa, wait, yeah," but it's like the same place, but he's dressed differently. Oh shit, she traveled in time. Like it was really well constructed.
Oh, I love the way that they differentiate the two Brigadiers because like past like 1977 Brigadier still has his mustache and then like 1983 Brigadier doesn't anymore.
And he's got a bald spot too.
Yeah. He looks,
and even his costume,
it looks good.
It's like more. No, it does. But like it's more brown and like professorial. And the past Brigadier, he still kind of has that military silhouette.
Yeah. Really well done.
So Tegan and Nyssa meet the Brigadier in 1977 because they're looking for the Doctor and Turlough. They find this man who is covered in like horrible burns, and they assume is the Doctor. He's clearly not the Doctor, but we'll allow it. And they drag him into the TARDIS. And when they are conveniently outside of the TARDIS, he reveals himself as someone called Mawdryn. And then when they come back in, he is standing up and he seems to be better, and he turns around and there's like his brain is leaking out of his head. And then that's how the episode ends. Yes. Lots of Time Lord
bad
brain.
Case of spaghetti brains.
So a good chunk of episode 3, if I'm not mistaken, is kind of like Nyssa and Tegan going back and forth with this guy over like, "You're not the Doctor." Like, "No, I am the Doctor." And the elephant in the room is never called out, I don't think. No one's ever like, "Well, you got a big brain on your top of your head. Like, what's that about?"
They scream about it once and then that's it.
Yeah. He's like, "Yeah, this is just what this regeneration looks like. Sorry." You never know what you're gonna get. I'm
the brain on top of the head Doctor.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna be Spaghetti Brains Doctor. That's what they'll call me.
Dr. Spaghetti Brains.
Yeah.
It's been 20 years of Doctor Who, and now we're going to switch over to Doctor
I think he
Spaghetti Brain.
says specifically that it's a failed regeneration. Like it went bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sad to think about.
I know.
Just that as a concept.
Well, because
Yeah.
like we haven't because it's four's regeneration, like 4's regeneration into 5, which Nyssa and Tegan are both present for, like almost doesn't happen. Like
Okay.
it spoilers, the white guardian, who's the black guardian's counterpart, like is involved.
What?
Mhm.
And so they're just like, oh man, no, we saw this already happen almost. Like this
Okay.
this is not good.
Mhm.
That's
and
cool that it checks out like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of miss that aspect of New Who where the companions know more about what's happening than like our new Doctor does. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's like it's a side effect of the way that the show is made now. With
Right,
like,
right.
showrunners and whole creative team switching out. And it's like,
Right.
well, if we're going to switch out everything, we should switch out the Doctor too. So then, inevitably the Doctor is like, has like a brand new companion and you're like starting fresh every time. So it's, yeah.
Like, is Clara the last? I'm trying to even like companions that have seen multiple incarnations of the Doctor now, besides, Donna.
It's Clara
Right.
and Rose, right? Like that's it.
Clara, Rose, and Captain Jack. Technically.
I guess
Sure.
River, but like I barely count River as a companion.
Right. River doesn't really count, unfortunately.
Captain Jack is good though, because they've even looped him around and had him meet 13. at one
That's
point.
true.
Right. That is true. Yeah, he's the new Brigadier. The Brigadier's dead, Jack. You're my new Brigadier. What does that mean? You'll find out.
It's fine. This one can't die.
You can't. I can't call your nursing home one night cavalierly asking to hang out, and then a nurse solemnly reports to me that you passed away some time ago.
Right?
Mm-hmm. She can't even give me a date. Anyway. All right.
Do we have any more thoughts on episode 2? No?
No, nothing in episode 2. No.
Okay. So part 3, we have Nyssa and Tegan, and 1977 Brigadier, comes along for the ride because he's like, oh yeah, no, I've seen, like, I know who this doctor person is, like, it's fine. And they're like, yeah, we know what's going on too. I like that he like the dynamic with them. I like because he like kind of bosses them around, but like nobody bosses Tegan around.
Right.
Chauvinist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like he feels like he outranks them because
Right.
he's known about this stuff for longer.
Yes.
And also he's a man, presumably. I'm
Right.
sure that's crossing his mind as well.
Uh-huh.
But
he's significantly older than both of them. So
yeah,
like-
and he's significantly older. Yeah. But I think, what I like about that is just like, is Tegan's just like, bitch, I don't know you. Like,
Who are you again? We
yeah,
just
you're not
met.
going to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Which also feels kind of New Who of like taking into account like how would this character and this character bounce off each other? Like they might not necessarily get along.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. It's good.
I like that Tegan, like the Mawdryn, who is posing as the Doctor, is trying to convince them to like let him leave the TARDIS, like let him bring the TARDIS back to the ship in space. And Tegan's like, no, like we can't trust you. I don't think you're the Doctor. But she kind of gets like outvoted.
Mhm.
And then the Doctor and Turlough and 1983 Brigadier are trying to get back to where the TARDIS is. And the Brigadier just happens to be like, the Doctor's like, oh, if only I had some like way to lock in on where the TARDIS is. And the Brigadier's like, oh, you mean like this homing device that I've kept in my drawer for the past 6 years, even though I have no memory of this event happening? So that I know that I said I enjoyed the pacing, but I think episode 3 suffers it's got like episode 3 syndrome where like it's just kind of setting up pieces and then waiting until like the conclusion, you know?
There's a great moment where they're almost I keep thinking of it as Brigadier's like hobbit hole, because that's how like comfortable it is. But like he's settled into a chair, and then Turlough is like, coming, and he kind of looks up at him like, are you fucking kidding me? And the next time we come back to them, they're back in the transmatter, the capsule or whatever, and he's like, I can't believe I've had to go up that goddamn hill 3 times today. So even the episode admits that it is just kind of a lot of going back and forth.
Yeah. The third one, the third episode is a little meandery, but I think there's enough interesting stuff and enough like cool sets that it kind of skates by, on
the ship the Doctor finds what looks like to be kind of like it looks like a TARDIS console a little bit, but it's like a regeneration chamber, I guess,
right.
And Mawdryn has like a bunch of like homies, like 7 other dudes that are revealed in this one. Their outfits, they look like jellyfish men. It's very flowy, like very pastel, like lots of like tulle, and they all have their stupid brain, spaghetti brain.
I think these things would have really scared me if I saw them when I was a kid.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Something about them all moving at once with the combination of the almost clown-like colors, but they're sunken, old, creepy faces, know?
Yeah. Yeah.
The way some of them are moving, it looks like they're kind of like on roller skates. Like they're like gliding kind of down the hall. Yeah. Like it's really weird.
Spooky.
Yeah.
It's unnerving more than like, it's like, ugh.
Like genuinely terrifying. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Absolutely.
So these guys tried to steal the power of regeneration from the Time Lords, and their punishment is basically they have been forced to perpetually like mutate, which is why they have the spaghetti brain, and they can't die. So they're
in agony.
Yes, they have been traveling in space by themselves for centuries, trying to either figure out a cure or figure out a way for them to just like end it all, which is really dark. And they explain this to the Doctor, and Tegan is like, well, we have to help them, right? And the Doctor is just like, well, I can't, because I'm a Time Lord and I only have 12 regenerations, and I've already used 4 of mine, and there's 8 of these guys. So if I just dole out my regeneration energy to like end their suffering, I am gonna die as well.
And that's
or at least like this is it for me. I'm in my last life then.
Yeah.
What I'm also interested in here is like, I can't remember. Is this the first time the set number of regenerations it's mentioned on the show? Is this where
it's established in, I think it's Deadly Assassin, because the mat. Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah. Right. Because of the mat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah. It's a good one. Not that Nick would remember by the time we got to
this conversation.
It's super good. It's really good.
Yeah, it is good. Yeah. So then he's like, yeah, I would die. End of episode. Yeah.
Oh, and this whole time the Black Guardian has been like tormenting Turlough and is like, dude, you got to kill the Doctor. You promised you would. Like, I'm going to haunt you until you do what I say. And the Turlough's like, okay, fine.
I forgot what episode it is, but he disguises himself as the headmaster at one point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's Yeah, it's almost like Hellraiser, you know,
Yeah.
just haunting this guy from waking or sleeping.
This poor kid. How old
Poor
is
little
Turlough
brat.
supposed to be?
Who could say? He's an
Like
alien.
high
11.
school age? Only 11.
Please.
That would certainly explain Hippo's whole
Father,
vibe.
please, we're only 11 years old. I
Yeah.
can't drive a car.
Yeah. Suddenly that makes a lot of sense.
They should have subbed. Hippo as a companion would be fascinating.
Mm,
Like a piglet style, like cowardly companion. Like
Oof.
a Chucky from the Rugrats kind of companion.
isn't that just Nardole, though?
Yeah, I
Like,
was going to say, you're just describing Nardole.
But was it okay, thank you for bringing up Nardole, which I never thought I would say. But like 12 is kind of like a haze for me right now, unfortunately. I mean, the like latter 12 Nardole era, certainly.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was he kind of like, the joke was that he was like super powerful and like, because like I remember moments where he would like threaten that, I could destroy you anytime I wanted, Doctor. You better be nice to me. And I was like, I just remember
feel
that.
I feel like they were
dynamic.
empty threats, if I
Okay.
remember correctly, because he was only there because like of a promise he made to River, I think.
Mm.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Can I celebrate my off the cuff Matt Lucas impression from a few
yeah, that's
seconds
pretty
ago?
good. That's pretty good.
Anyway.
All right. So episode 4.
4. So the Doctor basically is like, okay, sucks to like, I'm sorry that this happened to you guys, but I can't help. Bye.
Yeah.
He leaves with Nyssa, Tegan, and one of the Brigadiers, and then he tells Turlough to take the other Brigadier because there are now 2 Brigadiers in one point in time in space, and that's a big no-no. So they can't interact, otherwise something terrible is going to happen. So the Doctor leaves in the TARDIS, and then as he like takes off, Nyssa and Tegan start like are in terrible pain, and they have like bruises all over their body, and they're like mutating in front of his eyes, and he's just like, okay, I'm gonna go back, and hopefully it fixes it. And so he goes back to the ship, or he like goes backwards in time, and then Nyssa and Tegan briefly turn into little girls. And he's like, oh, not too far. So he goes back to the ship, and Mawdryn and his like squad are like waiting for them because they're basically like blackmailing the Doctor into helping them. Because Nyssa and Tegan have somehow picked up the same curse.
They're contaminated, as the Doctor says.
So the Doctor's like, okay, fine, I'll help you guys because I don't want my friends to die. So they all go to the
kind of a running theme for the 5th Doctor.
Yeah, it really is. Oof. Well, yeah, because he's coming. Like, I know that Adric died, like, I don't know, 3-4 episodes ago, but like, they're still like, oh man, remember Adric?
Yeah, it is kind of cool that like I don't even know that this was done on purpose. I feel like it's totally inadvertent, but like the idea that like he's constantly being like, yeah, no, I will do whatever it takes to save my companions because of that one time,
yeah,
I didn't get to do it. That's kind of cool. That's a cool arc for a Doctor to go through. I don't know. I like that.
Yeah.
So he agrees, and he's all set to sacrifice himself to make sure that Nyssa and Tegan are okay. And at exactly the right like millisecond, the Brigadier and the other Brigadier are in the same room at the same time, and they hold out their hands and like touch like their fingers together, and then like there's like a big like a I don't know what it is. It's not an
Like
explosion.
a flash.
Yeah. And the okay, so
The regularity.
is it like the paradox that does it because like they're like, Doctor, what happened? And the doctor's just like, the TARDIS did it. So like I don't actually know.
It was like they found because of like both events unspooling the way they did.
Yeah.
Because the two Brigs merged at that moment in time, they released some kind of temporal
like energy
and energy
Yeah.
blast, and the TARDIS, I don't know, ate it.
Yeah. It's like a substitute power source or
Okay.
whatever. Yeah.
So that fixes that Deus Ex Machina is the problem. And the doctor is able to.
Okay, I wouldn't. All right, it's set up pretty. I know.
I know.
Well, okay, all right.
Brigus
Like,
Ex
come on.
Machina. If you
Yeah,
will.
it doesn't come out of nowhere.
No, that's unfair to call it a Deus Ex Machina because it is set up. It's done really
Yeah.
well, actually. I just don't think
It's
they
like
explain it
the
well.
final thing
Right,
is
right.
like, I don't know, the Brig fixed it, but like the fact that they spent the whole story following both Brigs and
Mhm.
really charting like, then this one went there and this one went there.
Mhm.
So when it's like, hey, what are you doing here? You're like, oh, okay, this is what it's all been leading up to.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, this is the reason why the one in 77 has to forget the doctor until 83.
Mm-hmm. Because of
Because that
like, is it just so traumatic, like seeing yourself in the future, or like, is it the
Or-
energy?
I think it's the combination of both of those things. Like, you're not supposed to. I think the reason that the paradox happens is because you're not supposed to have met yourself
Yeah.
in the future.
At one
Okay,
point-
yeah.
Yeah, but if that guy
old
forgets and
yeah.
doesn't remember until 83, then it's fine
Mm.
because now it's his past self technically. So it's
the clown people describe
It's
him
like
as
a
a
Band-Aid.
deviant at some point.
yeah.
Like he is, by being there, he is like deviating from like the norm of what is supposed to happen.
Right.
Mhm.
And then afterwards, at the kind of the epilogue, the falling action, he comes out and he's like, I feel like I haven't been this refreshed in 6 years. So you're like, okay, so something kind of is now fixed in his timeline now
Yeah.
that this incursion has passed.
Well, because he remembers the
Mhm.
doctor. He remembers his best friend.
Yeah.
his boyfriend.
They had a
And
cute
he'll
little
get to see
adventure
him one
together.
more time.
Yeah.
Oh my
'Cause
gosh! Speaking of,
he's not in the
please.
5 Doctors, right? Or is he?
I think he's with. Isn't he? I think he
Oh,
is.
okay. All right, so he's in the 5 Doctors, and then he's not in it again.
don't
until
remember.
Battlefield, right? I think. I don't know. Anyway.
Potentially.
Yeah. Oh, he wouldn't remember anything from the 5 Doctors anyway. 'cause
Right.
Nobody
Yeah.
ever
No one.
remembers anything in a multi-doctor story. That's everybody gets amnesia at the end of all of those.
hmm
Nice. Love it.
But Turlough.
Oh.
Turlough is still like basically under the sway of the Black Guardian, but his little crystal that he's been using to communicate with the Black Guardian has cracked as a result of the blast, the time energy.
Mhm.
And so he kind of is just like, okay, well, I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do now, but now he's like joined up with the doctor and we have a new companion.
Yeah.
And the ship in
then-
space explodes.
Yeah, and then out of fucking nowhere, Mawdryn's ship just explodes. He's like, he's like, can I come with you? And he's like, I think you already have. And then,
by the way,
and then the two of them, Tegan and Nyssa, both like exchange a look of like ruh-roh, and then it just cuts to the spaceship blowing up,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, wait, what? What happened?
Just so you know. They're all super dead.
Yeah, they're all super dead. Either that, or because they're immortal, they're just in tiny pieces and somehow still alive, floating in space forever.
No, I think the whatever time blast fixed the problem, killed these guys, and then also made the ship not a fixed point anymore. So
Yes.
so it exploded.
Yeah, they did say that.
Oh, okay.
That's why they had to get off so quickly.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Got it. But yeah, that's Mawdryn Undead. I think it's a good one. I really do.
Yes.
I really like Nyssa and Tegan's like look to each other. That's suspicious. Like, we don't trust this guy. I don't know if this makes sense even to me, but it feels like a Star Wars ending somehow. Like,
mhm.
Like there's some we may have ended this adventure, but there's a threat looming over this whole operation.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
tune in next week.
Right. It's really good. Yeah, it is really good. Yeah, that's a really fun one. And we'll continue the Black Guardian trilogy on the next round when we're doing series 11
Mm-hmm.
with Terminus, which is, I believe, that is Nissa's final story, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
That's
I couldn't
interesting.
remember. I couldn't remember it last week, and then right as the credits hit, I was like, "Oh, I know what story's next."
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's kind of how I was too. I was like, "Oh, right,
Yep,
that's right.
yep.
She's got one foot out the TARDIS right now. That sucks."
Yeah, I love
yeah.
Nissa.
I know.
They're both so specific, Nissa and Tegan.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you see them in action, you're like, oh yeah, this is Nissa and this is Tegan, but like they're not as easily immediately identifiable the way that like, the Viking, what was his name? The Scot. Can't believe I forgot his name.
Oh, Jamie?
Jamie.
Yeah.
I know he's not a Viking.
Viking. God, he wishes he was a Viking.
A Viking companion would be nuts.
It would. We almost had a Viking doctor for like a second. Or Tom when Fourth Doctor's like looking for his costume, he comes out of the TARDIS as like a Viking.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Like, what about this thing? And I'm like, I don't think so. So yeah, that's our Fifth Doctor this round. Next week on the show, it's a big one because we are wrapping up Trial of a Time Lord with the final two segments, which encompasses the final 6 parts of Trial of a Time Lord. The first 4 being Terror of the Vervoids, and then the final 2, The Ultimate Foe. And we'll be talking about that next week, which will be the end of the 6th Doctor as a TV Doctor.
Wow.
After next week, next season, he'll be a Big Finish Doctor. And we'll be better for it. As you guys will learn.
That's a damn shame. I was just thinking this morning, knowing that we were going back into 6, I was going to say this on the show. Like, I know that in the years past, I have been critical of 6, to say the least. Mm-hmm. But then I think in the hiatus of the show, I kind of came to understand how widespread in the fandom that animosity is. Mm-hmm. And so I was thinking today, literally, like, I'm going to be nicer to 6 in the future. I'm going to go a little easier on him. And now we're like, we're on his last episode.
Yeah. I mean, but you will find that as soon as we go to Big Finish,
yes.
You're going to be like, oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay, this is so much better. Like, it's just a huge relief because you're like, oh, this is how you make him work. This is amazing. Cool. It's just so much better in Big Finish, which is why we're doing it, because it's really good stuff.
Yeah, it's worth getting.
Yeah,
into.
It's worth visiting.
Mm-hmm.
But first, next week we have to wrap up his television stories with the end of the Trial of a Time Lord, that should be. There's going to be a lot of stuff to talk about in next week's episode. And originally on the schedule, we were going to do Terror of the Vervoids and then the next time do The Ultimate Foe. But like a 2-part story just did not feel like enough to cover for a whole season of Long Way Around.
Those 2 episodes are like, there's a lot in those 2 episodes though. Like,
There is, but there's still like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'd rather just get them behind us, and move on to the good stuff over at Big Finish. But next week, the end of the trial, the verdict in the trial of the Time Lord.
Guilty.
Yep. Oh man. And also. The introduction of Mel Bush.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I love Mel.
Yeah. We've also got the introduction of Mel. That also happens in next week in that episode. So
The ultimate foe.
Yeah. And Terror of the Vervoids.
Oh, she's in both.
Yeah, she's in both.
Wow.
All right. Well, thanks so much for listening, everybody. Check out the Discord if you haven't before. Join us. There's a lot of fun discussion happening over there. So make sure that you're a part of it. The link is in the show notes to join the Discord. You can do that. You can download Discord. There's like a app that you can put on your phone. There's an app you can download and install on your computer. You can also run it in a browser. So, you got lots of options. If you want to like check in with us over there. Again, link is in the show notes. And of course, duelinggenre.com/support is where you can check out our Patreon page. If you have any interest in helping us out over there. Nick and I do Dueling Genre tonight every weekend over there where we talk about entertainment news.
Yeah. Cass, we need to have you back on soon.
I
know. I'm boring though. Like
No. We want you to talk about the weird trailers that Chris finds.
Yeah. Chris makes us talk about. Anyway. All right.
We need to do that again if we're going to keep bringing it up.
Thanks, everyone. We will be back next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.